like I said, the first one we are reading is by Adam, and his is called Bloody Fangs. I'm just gonna go ahead and guess that maybe it's about a vampire. I don't know. Sounds alright. Ah, mobile. Okay, that's fair. That's fair. Okay. Here, I'll put it up all the way. Okay, it's up all the way. I just won't try to yell to save your eardrums. If anyone thinks it should go down a bit, just let me know. Anyways, let's read Adam's story, Bloody Fangs. Mom, Dad, little bro, I'm sorry. This is all my fault. I cried out as I looked upon their rapidly cooling bodies. My family is dead and my home destroyed. The city thrown into a state of chaos. You're probably wondering how we got to this point. My name is Elizabeth Cromwell, and this is the story of how, in the span of 3 days, I managed to cause the destruction of my home. Sounds good to you? Alright, thank you. It all started on that horrid day, Friday the 13th. A day of bad luck and superstition. As I woke up on that chilly October day, I felt a foreboding chill run down my spine, passing it off as a result of the dropping temperatures. I shrugged it off and went about getting ready for the day. Big mistake. Had I decided something was wrong and kept my wits about me then maybe my family would still be alive now. Finishing my preparations for the day, I hear my mother, Aggie, call me for breakfast from downstairs along with my little brother James. As I head downstairs, I see James already at the table with my father Jonathan. He's a very successful doctor at the local hospital. As I sit down at the table, my mother finishes passing out the plates and we begin some idle conversation. John, dear, have you heard anything about those strange deaths found at the edge of the woods? My mother's face is full of concern. As I hear this, my face lights up in a confusion. But James is too absorbed in his food to take notice of what's happening right now. My father pauses, his face looking grim, shooting a quick glance to me, and then my brother says, "This isn't something I want to discuss in front of the kids. But well, we are on the topic. I want you to both listen to me." My father says this in that soft yet stern tone that gives you no choice but to listen. Me and my brother look up from our plates, concerned by the look on his face. We remain quiet as he begins to speak. "I want you both to stay away from the woods near Bloodstone Park. And if you aren't going to be with friends or after school with teachers, I want you straight home. Something strange is happening, and I don't know what I would do if something happened to either of you." Both of us were not taking this too seriously, as that has always been an overprotective parent. We responded with the affirmative that we understood, and that I informed him that I had plans to hang out with 3 of my friends after school. Everything said and done, Dad looked at the clock and ushered us to quickly finish our food so we could get to school on time. Rushing through our meal, me and James quickly grab our supplies and head out the door over to the bus stop. We are both students at Wallachia High School. I never understood why the school was named this, but I have shrugged it off as unimportant. Anyways, I'm in my final year of high school, while it's my brother's first year as a freshman. Arriving at the bus stop quickly, I greeted 2 of my friends, Mandy and Sarah. They were my best friends since we were little girls, along with our 3rd friend, Alexandria. As we get on the bus and start heading to school, Mandy starts talking about our plans for later. So we are still good to hang out with Alexandria after school ends. Me and Sarah nodding in affirmation, we start to gossip about the strange deaths that have been occurring. Sarah leads with, "Have you both heard about the strange deaths over by the woods at Bloodstone Park?" Mandy responds quickly saying, "Yeah, it's super creepy how shriveled up the bodies were. There were no visible wounds either aside from 2 puncture marks on their necks. Wonder what happened. Did your father know anything, Elizabeth? He did the autopsies, right?" "Yeah," I responded, "but I don't know anything and my father doesn't want to talk about it in front of me and my brother for some reason. I don't think he's hiding anything and is just being overprotective as usual." How wrong I was. They both nod in understanding, already familiar with my father's behavior. Well, he may be overprotective, but at least he isn't too overbearing and lets you have fun. I quickly nod in agreement as we arrive at the school and start leaving the bus. The school day passed by quickly. We all meet in front of the school and start talking about our plans and what we want to do now that the school day is over. "So, what should we do today?" I asked as I approached my friends. The 3 of them looked between each other excitedly. Alexandria spoke up first. "Well, Mandy was thinking, what if we go explore the woods over at Bloodstone Park?" A soft frown on my face as I hear this. I felt the same chill from earlier, and there was a knot of fear and foreboding in my gut. My face was full of apprehension as I responded quickly. My dad doesn't want me or my brother anywhere near the woods. And are you crazy? 5 people have died. The police probably still have the area taped off anyway. They looked a little surprised at my response, not used to seeing me as anything but brave and fearless. Manny spoke first. Wow, I never thought I would see you scared, Lizzie. With a soft glare, I quickly replied, I'm not scared. But we shouldn't go looking for trouble. Not willing to let it go, she replied, well, it sure sounds like you're scared to me. Come on, it'll be fine with the 4 of us there. What's the worst that could happen? Not willing to back down, I reluctantly relented foolishly, ignoring the feeling of unease in my gut. They all cheered, and we started the streak over to the park. The feeling gets stronger with each step towards those woods. Looking back as it now, I wish I hadn't listened and found a way to convince them to go somewhere else instead, because while I hadn't realized it at the time, this was just the beginning of the end. As we arrived at the park, we weren't surprised to see it deserted. The recent scare made local families unwilling to bring their children to the park out of fear for their safety. Looking at the woods and seeing the yellow police tape blocking the path to the woods, I froze. Something was watching us. I panicked, my thoughts in disarray as I sensed someone or something with its eyes on us. My eyes darted around rapidly, looking every which way, trying to spot whatever it was, only to come up empty-handed, as I couldn't tell which direction it was. My friends, seeing this, asked what was wrong. Assuming they would think I'm crazy, I simply said nothing, and we proceeded closer to the woods. Now, close enough to the police tape to see the outlines of 5 bodies on the ground. I just stare at them. My friends going past the tapes started inspecting them more closely, coming up with all kinds of ridiculous theories on how they died, laughing and joking around. Everything from snakes to aliens were thrown out as a possible cause of death, but the one that was treated as the most ridiculous at the time was vampires. As I heard that, my heart inexplicably froze, and I was filled with a sudden sense of dread, not understanding why at the time, but thoroughly freaked out. I did my best to get the others to leave without making it seem like I was scared. They looked confused, and Alexandria chimed in, saying, there is nothing to be afraid of, Lizzie. Come on, let's just explore the inside of the forest for an hour, and then we will all head home. The others voiced their agreement as well, so I had no choice but to swallow the lump building in my throat and agree. We slowly started trekking into the forest, our eyes peeled for anything suspicious that might have led to the death of those 5 people found outside. But as we went further and further into my relief, nothing of interest was seen. A few squirrels and a deer at one point, but nothing that could have possibly killed those people. Eventually, an hour went by, and my relief turned to panic. What do you mean we're lost? I exclaimed with such fury. Alexandria, slightly cowed by the tone of my voice, and said somberly, I'm sorry, I didn't think we'd go so deep into the woods, and I had lost all sense of direction. Mandy, Sarah, do you have any idea which way to go? To my dismay, they both shook their heads no. I spoke and said, okay, let's try not to panic. It's hard to see the sun through the trees, but I think based on where the sun was when we came in here, we need to head this way. If I'm wrong, hopefully we will just come out on the other side. And if not, then we will have to turn around and walk 2 hours in the opposite direction to get out. Any objections? Everyone shook their heads no, and we began our march with no idea what lay ahead. Not realizing just how badly we were turned around, we ended up going straight in the opposite direction of the exit to the forest, and ended up in a strange clearing that, for some reason, had a Gothic-style castle in the middle of it. Wow! We all exclaimed. I wondered if anyone lives there, and why would they build a castle in the middle of the forest? Interesting. Looking upon the castle, there is again that gnawing feeling that something isn't right there. Managing to hide my trepidation, I merely stated, we must have gone in the wrong direction. Let's turn around and head home. The others, looking disappointed by my proclamation, said there is a huge castle just here in the middle of nowhere. Aren't you the least bit curious? A little annoyed are their insistence to explore this forest after being told to stay away for our own safety. I snapped at them saying, no! You said an hour of exploring, and then we got lost. We don't know what might be in there, or who owns the place, or if it's inhabited. Do you think they would want 4 girls trespassing on their property while they have clearly gone to great lengths to be left alone? Surprised by my outburst, they all flinched back a little, but had their looks of understanding on their faces. Sarah, being the one to speak up, said, "Okay, how about this? Seeing it's getting late, we knocked on the door and see whoever might live there will let us stay the night." Not entirely happy with the compromise, but seeing it as a reasonable request, I simply nodded my head. We proceeded across the ground to the large iron door to knock. This is getting interesting. Oh no, they're losing it. I'll try to read comments like in between sections. We got there, and Alexandria used a big metal knocker to knock on the door, and then we waited approximately 30 seconds before, to our surprise, a man dressed as a butler answered the door. He spoke in a very eloquent voice as he said, "Good evening, ladies. How may I be of service?" Mandy, being the first one to find her voice, spoke up. "Me and my friends got lost in the woods before we found this castle here, and since it was getting late, we were hoping that if someone lived here, that we would be permitted to spend the night." The butler, hiding his surprise, spoke and said, "Very well, please come in, and wait here in the main hall. I shall go speak to the master of this house, and if he permits it, I will set you ladies up with a hot meal and lodging for the night." We entered and watched as the butler left until we were left standing there with nothing to do but look up at the paintings on the wall. Many of them depict an arguably handsome gentleman dressed up in a luxurious tuxedo, who I could only assume to be the master the butler spoke of. As I heard footsteps leading back in our direction, my head snapped over to see who was coming. My earlier guess proved correct, as the man from the painting approached us alongside the butler from earlier, and as soon as I laid my eyes on this man, the feeling of unease returned in full force. An alarm bell started going off in my head. I didn't know why. All I knew was I was afraid of this man, but I did my best not to let it show, so he would suspect there was anything wrong out of the ordinary. As he arrived, he stopped and smiled at us as he introduced himself. All I could notice was the abnormally large canines he had in his mouth, almost looking like fangs. Speaking in a deep baritone that one wouldn't find out of place coming from a gentleman of great stature, the man said, "Good evening, ladies. My name is Vladimir, and welcome to my humble abode. It is my understanding that you need rooms for the night so that you may leave the forest and return home in the morning, correct?" Alexandria, being the bravest of the moment, spoke. "Yes, sir. We decided to explore the forest and got lost before finding your castle all the way out here. If you would be so kind as to let us stay here just for the night, we would all be very grateful." Vlad just smiled and said, "It wouldn't be trouble at all to help such lovely ladies in the hour of need. I have just one rule: don't wander around the castle unsupervised. Sebastian," he spoke, addressing the butler from before, "escort these ladies to the guest room and have a meal brought to them, and then you may return to your normal duties for the remainder of the night." The now named Sebastian merely replied, "Right away, sir. Now, ladies, if you would please follow me." So we walked about 5 minutes into another part of the castle. My feeling of unease is growing by the minute. We arrive and are each given a room, and are told that dinner would be brought to our rooms in approximately half an hour, and not to leave our rooms until then. What a nice guy. Okay. Dinner came and passed very quickly. It was very extravagant food. We were all amazed by the amount of flavor packed into the dish, but I didn't actually eat any, saying I wasn't hungry, even though I actually was starving. While Vladimir seemed nice, I don't trust him, so I let the others have my portion of food. And it was a good thing too. After dinner was over, suddenly everyone started to feel very sleepy. I was feigning sleep and doing my best to keep my breathing even when I heard 2 people enter the room. "Good work, Sebastian. Hopefully that will keep them out until first light. Then I want you to have them escorted back to town. They mustn't be allowed to find out our secrets, but at the moment, it would be more trouble than it's worth to kill them." Upon hearing this, I was scared, hoping they would leave soon because I wasn't sure how much longer I could keep faking. To my relief, they suddenly left shortly afterwards, and then I could let my panic show. Okay, Elizabeth, calm down. He doesn't intend to kill us. What is he hiding? I need to find out, and quickly. Maybe he has something to do with that strange deaths. I waited until I counted to 300, and then snuck out of my room and went looking around. This castle seemed like a maze with so many branching pathways and no indication of where I was going, but thankfully, they were dimly lit, so I had plenty of shadows to hide in. As I approached a big door with a light coming from inside, I couldn't believe my eyes. As I looked in, I saw Vladimir, and he was biting the neck of a police officer. To my horror, as I continued to watch slowly, the blood drained from his body, and he became a shriveled up corpse, just like the bodies found on the edge of the forest. I slowly backed up in pure, unadulterated terror, and realized that's why there was no police at the crime scene. They should have had someone guarding the area, but when we went to check the area out, there was no one there. I slowly kept backing up as quietly as possible until I bumped into something. As I turned around, I was greeted with Sebastian's frowning visage. He quickly grabbed me and dragged me into the room with Vlad in it. As he did so, he spoke. "Master, I caught this one hiding outside the door. I froze," and he looked at me with those cold eyes, frostier than any glacier, and blood dripping from his fangs and trailing down his chin. "So, you saw everything now, did you? What is your name, you foolish girl?" Shakily, I said, Elizabeth Cromwell." And at the word Cromwell, his eyes lit up with such rage, I thought he would kill me on the spot. "A Cromwell!" he spat out in disgust. Of course you would be, you dang Cromwells have been a thorn in my side for centuries." Scared and confused, I asked him what he was talking about, and he said, "So, you don't know just who you are, do you, little girl? Then allow me to enlighten you. The Cromwell family has been a group of vampire hunters dating all the way back to the 1400s in my youth. I bet you've had a feeling of unease, like something is wrong with the world, as soon as you stepped foot near this forest." I didn't say anything, but the look of surprise on my face told him all he needed to know. "You see, little hunter, that's because you could sense me in my presence here. The instincts you inherited were telling you to run away because you can't kill me. Had you remained in your room and hadn't meddled in my affairs, then this could have been resolved peacefully. Gosh. Take her to the dungeon while I deal with her friends. I have just the idea to deal with them." "No, no!" I screamed as I turned and twisted, struggling to escape, so I could go help my friends. It was no use though. No matter how much I struggled, Sebastian's grip remained strong and I was shackled in a jail cell. I had no idea at the time, but things were about to go from bad to worse. As my friends lay sleeping peacefully in their beds, Vladimir approached them and bit each of them on the neck, injecting them with some of his vampire blood, and then slowly turning them as they slept into full-fledged vampires. Back in my cell, I struggled against my binding, trying to break free or find something to make my escape, but all I managed to do was start chafing my wrists, so I stopped and slowly cried myself to sleep. Several hours passed, and I woke up with a fright, hoping last night's events were just a nightmare, and that I would be nice and warm in my bed. Sadly, as I was up and saw the shackles on my wrists, I knew last night was not a nightmare, and I was in big trouble. With no idea on what to do, though, I had to sit there and wait, hoping for a chance to escape. About 10 minutes after I woke up, Vladimir came in. "Ah, good morning, my dear," he spoke. "Apologies for the harsh conditions, but you left me with no choice. I hope you understand. Now, let's get down to business. You are going to remain here while I let your friends leave and go back into town." He made a hand gesture and walked in with my friends, looking much paler and with a vacant look in their eyes. "They are now my puppets to do my bidding, and I am going to send them into town and have them cause pandemonium." "You monster!" I screamed out, not really thinking. He kicked the bars of my cell and I flinched back in fear. Now, if it weren't for you, I would have never had to do this. So, this is your fault, not mine." He snaps his fingers with it, and a TV is wheeled in. "Keep an eye on the news. Things should get very interesting." With those parting words, they all leave, and I'm just forced to sit there until some food is brought in for me. About 2 hours pass, and then suddenly on the TV I hear this. "We are coming to you live with a special news bulletin. There has been a massacre at Wallachia High School. The suspects appeared to be 3 of the local students, but something seems wrong, as they are now deathly pale with lifeless eyes. They appear to be indiscriminately ripping blood apart with their bare hands or draining them of their blood, turning them into husks, like those found by the forest. We want to suck your blood. I like this story so far. Okay, sorry about that pause. Are they responsible for the previous incidents? If so, why show themselves now, and how do we stop them? Let's cut to Police Chief Anderson to see what he has to say on the matter. Thank you, Diane. As for those brutal killings, we don't believe they are responsible for the previous killings in the forest, but we do need to take care of them before any more human lives are lost. We have formed a perimeter around the school, and anyone who didn't die in the initial massacre has been evacuated. Conventional means don't seem to damage them, so we will be calling in an expert on the matter, and that is all we are able to release to the public at this time. There you have it, folks. So, stay indoors and safe as we keep you updated as we are notified of any changes in the situation. I looked upon the news horrified. All the blood drained from my face and my blood ran cold. So, this is what he meant when he said they were going to cause pandemonium. I wonder who is the expert they mentioned. Maybe my dad? Hope he and my brother are okay. I guess there is nothing left to do but wait. Cut away to Jonathan. Things couldn't get any worse, I thought to myself reading the latest report. My daughter is missing, and now her friends are vampires. Hopefully she's still alive, but I have no time to worry about that now. As horrible as it is to think, I need to save the town from her friends wreaking havoc. With a sigh, I close the report on my desk and gather up my gear. I have vampires to slay. It's unfortunate there is no way to turn them back. I arrived at the school post-haste, and was quickly debriefed by Police Chief Anderson. We have the entire perimeter surrounded by SWAT team, and have prepared an entrance for you at the back of the school. Alright, I will make my way back there immediately. Just make sure your men are ready to seal the path behind me. I make my way into the school, ready for anything. While prepared for it, the gory sight before me made my stomach churn. Dead children everywhere, some with their chests torn open and their entrails spilled out on the floor. Severed limbs and decapitated heads scatter around. I collected my composure and tried my best to ignore the stench of death in the air as I carefully began my search, hunting down these vampires that were once my daughter's friends. Staying alert, I slowly made up my way to the school cafeteria, anticipating at least one of them to be in there. My hunch was right. I found who I think was once Alexandria, feeding on the remains of some boy. Knowing that I was lucky to be undetected up to this point, I readied my specialized crossbow, ready to shoot a stake through her heart. As I inched forward to get a better shot, I slipped on some blood and cursed my foul luck as the stake shot off into the ceiling. Alexandria, hearing this, turned around and saw me quickly attempting to sink her fangs into my throat. Luckily, I came prepared and pulled another stake out of my coat and used it to block her bite. As I held her at bay, I kicked her in the chest and launched her across the room with some tables, creating a lot of noise. I need to end her quickly. I reloaded my crossbow with ease, only possible with years of experience, and hefted my stake in the other hand as I prepared to fight for my life. Alexandria, now recovered and no longer dazed, hissed at me with her fangs and got ready to try and disembowel me with her claws. As she charged, I fired off my crossbow, striking her in the shoulder as she dodged to avoid a blow to the heart. Distracted by the sudden blow, she left herself open, and I took my chance, striking quickly with the speed and precision of a viper, slamming my stake through her heart. As she let out a scream and turned to dust, I saw Mandy and Sarah crash through the walls on opposite sides of the room. Acting quickly, I threw 2 holy water grenades at them. It's not strong enough to kill just by getting on them, but it should weaken them enough to make these 2 versus 1 situations easier. Angered by the holy water, they both let out a hiss and leaped at me through the air. Not able to dodge both, I was forced to use my crossbow to shield the blow from Mandy, and cursed, and it went flying from my hands. Acting quickly, I let a blow fly across Mandy's face, sending her staggering back, and then I ducked, just barely dodging Sarah's claws by a hair, saving myself from being decapitated. Pulling out a pair of silver crosses, I prepared myself to start parrying blows. And none too soon, as a flurry of attacks came raining down on me, attempting disembowelment, decapitation, and I even had to save my arm from being torn off. Seeing an opening, I quickly swept her legs out from under her and impaled her arms to the floor and rolled to the side as Mandy returned to the fight. Quickly finding a chair, I brandished it as a makeshift weapon and swung at her with as much force as I could, but Mandy ducked under the blow and swung at my chest. Quickly letting go of the chair and leaping backwards as quickly as I could, I still took some shallow cuts across my chest and slammed my back into the wall. Mandy, pushing her advantage, attempted to deal a finishing blow with her fangs, but thinking quickly, I grabbed another holy water grenade and shoved it in her mouth, letting it detonate in her face. I like this. I really like this action scene. How's it going, Lorenzo? Just taking a quick break real quick to say, right now we are reading some scary stories that people in our community have submitted. We're doing our scary story contest reading, and right now we're reading through the scary stories. We are going full RE, and I'm here. I definitely am getting like Resident Evil feels, and I like it. I like the change of perspective with Elizabeth to Jonathan. I think that's really good. Okay, let's get back to it. Also, I just want to let you know, Lorenzo, if you do happen to want to submit a scary story, you can still type one up and submit it before the end of the stream in our Discord. One of the mods can give you more info. It's all up to you. But besides that, welcome to the stream. Okay. So let it detonate her face. She let out an unholy scream and staggered away in pain. I quickly brought out another stake and drove it through her chest, causing her to turn to dust. By this time, the impaled Sarah had finally managed to free herself, but at the cost of her hands evening the playing field a little. But her hands were slowly starting to regenerate from the stumps left behind. Acting quickly, I charged her, going on the offense, striking her across the face and landing a thundering kick in her ribs. She was propelled across the room, giving me the chance to retrieve my crossbow and reload it. She crashed into some tables, fell to the floor, allowing me to cleanly fire my stake into her heart. I allowed a sigh of relief, and she let out a scream and turned to dust. Gathering any salvageable gear, I made my way out of the building, the SWAT having their guns ready to fire as I exited the building. Most of them seemed surprised at my survival. Walking up to the chief, I simply stated the job was done and that the cleaning team could be sent in. He nodded and waved them in. My daughter is still missing, though. If you can spare any men to search for her, it would be appreciated. But I know you are currently in a tough situation, Anderson replied. I can spare a few men to look around the town and try to find her, but until the cleanup is done, I clear out any red tape, I'm sorry, but that's the best I can do. Nodding in understanding, I thanked him and left him to tend to my wounds, hoping that my daughter was okay, wherever she was. And now it gets back to Elizabeth. Man, I'm so bored. I wonder what this guy's going to do with me. If he wanted to kill me, he would have by now, so what's his game? I've been here for hours. I wonder if my friends have been dealt with yet. I pause at the thought that my friends are gone, and I should be sad, but I don't have time to mourn them now. I need to stay strong and try to get out of here as I can avenge them. To my displeasure, Vladimir just walked in. Hello, my dear, he spoke, with that stupid grin on his face. It won't be long now. I have something special planned for you. I'm just waiting to see the results of my little minions. Not willing to let him give a rise out of me, I just glared and stayed silent. Let's watch the news and see if they have been able to deal with my little minions, if they were killed. It is no consequence. We are coming to you live with an update on the high school massacre. We had just received word that the monsters responsible for this atrocity have been killed by the specialists the police were calling in. We will now cut to our reporter on the scene with some words from Police Chief Anderson, as their specialist has declined an interview and wishes to remain anonymous. Chief, what will you do now that the culprits have been taken care of? Anderson spoke. Now that those monsters have been dealt with, we will be cleaning up the school and doing our best to gather the dead and make any corpses presentable for burial. After that, we will be furthering our investigations to find out where they came from and whether or not they are connected to the dead bodies that were found by the woods of Bloodstone Park. That is all I can say for now. Vladimir turned the TV off. Well, Seems they were able to deal with them after all. No matter. It's time to start preparing. Sebastian! He called out. Yes, sir? He replied, entering the room. Start the preparations immediately. We must have this done before sunrise. Right away, sir. It shall be taken care of with the utmost efficiency. What are you going to do to me? I couldn't help but ask as I watched the exchange between Vladimir and Sebastian. Vladimir glanced over at me and sinisterly replied, Nothing you need to concern yourself with at the moment. He stared into my eyes and said now, Sleep. The next thing I knew, I was unconscious. When I woke up, I realized my hand and feet were bound, and there was a blindfold over my eyes. I struggled to get free, but my wrists and ankles were bound so tightly I couldn't get any movement. I heard Vladimir speak and tried to turn my head in his direction. Ah, so you are awake. We are finishing the final preparations as we speak, so it won't be much longer now. When I turned your friends, I didn't bother taking the time to make sure their minds would remain intact during their turning them into my thrall. You, however, will keep your mind as I turn you into a vampire, but you will submit and obey my commands, and if I give you an order... Now, Sebastian, is everything ready? Yes, sir. You may start the ritual at any time. Excellent. Now, my dear, I will stab you in the heart, and as your blood stains the runes on the ground around you, I will recite a chant, and as your heart slows to a stop, I will bite you, injecting my blood into your body, and you will turn into a vampire. What? No! I screamed in terror, helpless to stop this. I twisted and struggled against my bindings, trying to get free. It's too late. You can't stop this, Vladimir said as he plunged the knife into my heart. I let out a silent scream as an explosion of pain ripped through my body. I heard Vladimir start chanting into a language I couldn't understand. I will wow. It's not. Oh, I'm sorry. I can't really do this justice, but I'm trying. Oh, you have koi on one kai with oyu for as waka. Translation, so you don't need to use the Google Translate. Thank you, Adam. From human to undead. Now that you have bled, you will turn, and in hell you will burn. From human to vampire, you I will sire. With this bite, you will be converted this night. Then he bit me, and my whole body felt like it was on fire. As if every cell in my body was being torn to shreds and reconstructed all at once. After that, I blacked out again, from the pain. When I woke up, I was in a nice bedroom, eloquently decorated with lavish paintings and high-quality furniture. Oh, wow. It's Greek. Oh, my bad. My Greek knowledge coming in clutch. I would let you read it, but since I'm already read it, I'm just going to keep going on. I'm sorry, comedian. Sorry about that. I was confused why he did not just toss me into the back of this in my cell. I heard the door open and Sebastian walked in. You have awoken, mistress. Mistress? What are you talking about? Now that the master has turned you, I am to treat you as I do him, so I must address you as mistress, unless I wish to be punished. Okay, I said, confused. Sebastian then spoke again. The master is awaiting you in the dining hall. There is a change of clothes in the wardrobe. Do not keep the master waiting, and I will be outside to escort you to him. As I, getting up, I checked the wardrobe and found an elegantly navy blue dress for me to wear. Debating on wearing my destroyed clothes or wearing this, eventually the dress won out. It was a beautiful design and very modest, so I wouldn't be giving him a show. Adam, I'm sorry to break the tension here, but that was a funny line. I'm immature, Adam. I'm sorry. I'm breaking character right now. I don't want to give him a show. Okay. Oh, I love that. Okay. Oh my god. I can't wait for it, bitch. Oh god, that was good. I got dressed and headed outside. Sebastian spoke. Very good. Follow me this way. We walked in silence and arrived far too quickly for my liking. Vladimir looked up from his position at the table and smiled as he greeted me. Now, my dear, I will allow you to return home, but you must not tell your father where we are or even hint at our location. If you do, your family will die. Understand? Yes, sir, I spoke, finding the words coming out before I could begin to speak. Now leave, and Sebastian, only escort her to the edge of the woods. She can make it home on her own. Yes, sir, right away, he spoke, and we left immediately, my body seemingly on autopilot as we left. My body not obeying my commands. We headed out into the forest, not even able to speak. We moved in silence. Comedian! I'm sorry, Adam. I'm sorry. Oh my gosh. Okay. That was a good one, comedian. We got to the edge of the woods, and as soon as we got there, I regained control of my body and rushed back into the park, being blinded by the sun. Looking at the position of the sun, it looked to be about midday, so I made my way home. Mom? Dad? Little bro? I called out as I entered my house. My parents walked in shocked to see me there. Honey! They rushed over and hugged me. We were so worried. Where were you? I looked at them downtrodden. I can't tell you. I'm sorry. You'll die if I do. My father looks at me in understanding and told me to go rest in my room. My mother telling me that she would be starting dinner in an hour and that she would make my favorite now that I am back. I looked at the time and see it was 3:45 and headed up to my room for a nap. As I changed into more comfortable clothes, I'm out as soon as my head hits the pillow. I wake up 2 hours late to the sound of my mother calling me down to dinner. I head downstairs to see everyone at the table. It's good to have you back, honey. It's good to have you back, honey, my father spoke. But I need to know where you were. Where were you? Do you have any idea what happened to your friends? He tried to gently coax it out of me. I'm sorry, I really am, but I can't tell you, otherwise you will die. My father spoke softly to try and reassure me like he always does. It's okay, honey. I know it was a vampire that took you and your friends. As you might have found out where we come from, a long line of vampire hunters, so I won't die. I just need you to tell me where you were taken so I can finish this. Putting my head in my hands, I decided to trust my father and told them about the woods, the castle, and how we foolishly went there. More importantly, I told him how I doomed my friends and how I was turned into a vampire by Vladimir. He looked at me with that same caring and understanding gaze all throughout my story and gave me my hand a squeeze of assurance as I got to the part about being turned. It's okay, Lizzie, he said. We can turn you back to normal. We just have to kill the vampire that turned you, and then you will go back to normal. Tomorrow, I will go kill that vampire after some preparation, and we won't have to worry about this ever again, because I will start your training as a vampire slayer when I get back. You'll be able to protect yourself better in the future. This plot leak for the new Castlevania, honestly. Lizzie Belmont. Oh man, can we get her for Smash? Sora wasn't actually the last character. There's a secret character. Lizzie comes to Smash. Lizzie comes to hunt. On that note, we finished dinner and all turned in for the night with pleasant thoughts in our minds as we drifted off to dreamland. But it was not to be. I woke up at midnight and my body started moving on its own. I caught my eyes in my mirror as I passed, and I saw that there were a ruby red glowing in the moonlight. I tried to regain control of my body as I entered my parents' room, attempting to warn them to do something to stop myself from doing whatever it was I was about to do. As I leaned over my parents' sleeping forms, my father's eyes suddenly snapped open as my body moved on its own and used my fangs to tear his throat open. My eyes widened in horror as I realized what I had done, but I suddenly lost myself in this wonderful taste. It was like I was suddenly starving, and I found something like my mother's cooking, but 1,000 times better. A slave to my new instincts, I couldn't hear anything but the blood pumping through my mother's veins. Deaf to her screams as these new instincts took over, I latched onto her neck and kept drinking my fill till she had nothing left to give. My brother, hearing the commotion, entered the doorway to see what was wrong, and he fell back in shock and fear. "Lizzie?" he called out. Not sure what was going on. Hearing the noise and still thirsty, I pounced on him and draining him dry like I did my mother. Slowly coming back to my senses, I started to cry as I looked around to see the state my family was in, not realizing who had done this until I looked in the mirror, and after feeling something dripping down my chin, to my absolute terror, staring back at me in my own reflection were a pair of bloody fangs, strained and dripping blood down to my chin. I hear off to the side a familiar voice I can't place as they are saying, I never said I would be the one to kill your family. You shouldn't have just listened, and they would still be alive." I numbly turned my head to see Vladimir standing there, and just stared at him as he left out the window. So, there you have it, the story of how I caused my family to die. It's ironic in a way that an unknowing vampire hunter turned vampire and was forced to kill their family. I'm not sure what I will do now, as he said I can't disobey him, so I don't think I can kill him. I'll have to look through my father's journals and see if he left anything that can help me. That will be a story for another time. Finn. Oh, that was good. Don't vampires have no reflection? Yeah, Adam, what the heck, man? This story's inaccurate. 0 out of 10. No, I'm kidding. I like to just, you know, this is his take on it, so I'm cool with it, you know? We stray from tradition and normalcy, so nothing wrong with that. Plot armor! Yeah, I figured you were trolling, Colonel. Oh man, that was a good story. Adam, well done. I think the imagery was really good. Good details, especially the fight. I love the fight scene and how I could visualize it. Picturing the tables moving, the chair, him like moving out of the way, knocking them. That was good. And I like the blend of like the beginning was kind of like you don't know what's going on. It's like a little bit of a slow start, mystery, and then it doesn't just end when we find out about vampires. It keeps going and there's more of a story there, you know? That was good. I liked it.